Sexual dimorphism. That thing is like to tell the difference between your mother and your father. But the Mushroom Kingdom is special, as it has many species like Koopas, Goombas, whatever the fuck Thwomps are. But today, with my zero qualifications other than Google Pictures, I will try to see if we can find some fun stuff in the Mushroom Kingdom that has to do with telling the difference between the sexes. Let's start off with the obvious ones, the humans. For this we'll use Peach and Mario. Well, I'm pretty sure everyone here is a human, so I don't need to go any deeper, and same goes for the bean people as they seem to show the same traits as humans. And for the shrubs, it seems that they act more like ants, where there's like, the females are more on the hierarchy, so it's like queen ant or queen shrub or whatever the hell you call it. But that seems to be for the shrubs, where the males seem to be like the worker ants or fucking the bees. And the female ones, like the queen bee, seem to be the better ones, like the worker bees and the queen bee. And now for another easy one, being the toad and toadettes, as the toadettes seem to grow extra mushrooms as looking like pigtails, which probably shows that in sexual dimorphism for toads, the females have hair, or a variety of hair, whatever the hell toads have. Now let's get on to one of the most iconic enemies in Mario, the Koopas. Firstly, let's ignore the fact that it can take up the shells, because real turtles can't do that, as well as a part of their body. But the male turtles usually have a little concave area for mating, but all the turtles have, well, rounded bellies. So whilst I could cop out and say that all the Koopas we see are female, real-life turtles and real-life female turtles, for the matter, also, aren't round like the ones we see in the Mario games, and are, well, still flatter. And even in Paper Mario's, the Koopas in the first two Paper Marios had female and male counterparts. There was really only a clothing difference and no real physical difference, so we can probably state that in the Mushroom Kingdom, Koopas display no signs of sexual dimorphism. That's well visible other than sex organs, but we're not counting those because that's obvious. But in King Koopas, we do see a difference, thanks to Wendy Koopa, as she has lips. Yeah, that's the only difference I can spawn. Look, when there's only one girl in the Royal Koopas that we see, yeah, that's the best that we have. So, for King Koopas, it seems that the sexual dimorphism seems to be lips. And also, we can do the same thing for Broodals, as they have boobies. Now, let's speak about our least favorite bird, Klepto, who's based off a condor. Now, I'll put a picture of male versus female condor, and as we can see, the main difference is that weird thing on their head, called the caruncle. Pronunciation probably wrong, but I don't give a shit. And as we can see on this family meal of KFC, it doesn't have that silly little lump on his head, which means that Klepto here is a girl. So is anyone up here for scrambled eggs? Or KFC? We have a Klepto to kill. Now, onto the inspiration for this video, Thwomp. Yes, I'm being serious. I'll count the Mario 64 Thwomps as regular Thwomps. Now, we see two types of Thwomps usually, the spiky ones and the flat ones. Now, because I can't obviously cross-reference this with any animal, so sadly we'll have to do some detective work. Now, in nature, usually the females are stronger, but unlike gorillas or rhinos, males are stronger. But more commonly from what we see, aka from what I read, is that females are stronger. So we'll just consider that the role that Thwomps serve is usually what we see, stronger ones protect the young. And in Mario 64, we can use the Mario 64 Thwomps as a reference because of the grunt. And that grunt is manly. See? Manly. So that means that the spiky Thwomps we see in the games are female, probably. That means that the females are probably the ones that protect the young, which are probably the Thwimps. So, as we can see, the defining difference in sexual dimorphism in Thwomps is the sharpness of spikes, or just having spikes in general. Now, there are other species with male and female counterparts that are harder to tell apart, like Goombas, in the RPGs. But in the RPGs, the differences seem to be like superficial, like clothing. But in Odyssey, we do see a Goombette, which is probably the female version of a Goomba. And we see that it has lashes and lighter skin tone or whatever. But yeah, we can see that the defining traits in Goombas for sexual dimorphism is skin color, lashes, and potentially cheek blushes, as we see. Which probably suggests that all the Goombas that we see in the games are males. like the military, you know? Especially because in Odyssey, the Goombet runs when you get next to it. Now, on the spikes, and an interesting thing that we can do here is, in colder climates, turtles, and I think reptiles in general, have a higher chance of being born male, but in warmer climates, they have a higher chance of being born female. So there's a good chance that the snow spikes are mostly males, or all males. Yeah, I just wanted to share that little cool thing. Anyways, now on to the top men, and I have an interesting theory with these things, and I'm gonna spew bullshit, and that is that the green ones are female and the red ones are male, but that the maniacs are the alpha males, the ones that breed with the females. And why do I think this? No reason, it just fits. The top one protects his wives, and so the biggest one. But I could also see the maniacs being like queens, like the insects, like queen bees. And so the green ones would be like the warrior, or the ones that collect stuff and beat the queen, and the red ones could be like the ones who, like, you know, like worker bees and stuff. And the maniac is like the broodmare, or queen of the colony, or whatever. But it seems like the sexual dimorphism seems to just be the spikes. So I'll go with the one where the top men operate like insects, where it's like queen bee, worker bees. You know what I'm talking about. Now onto Octo Goombas and Octo Oombas, and I'm gonna say that the pink ones are girls, not just because they're pink, but because the blue and green ones have spots, and spots are patterns, and patterns look pretty, which the blue and green ones could use in like a mating ritual to show off that they're better or prettier, like how birds do. So we can see that in the Octo Oomba species, the males would most likely use their spots to look bright or prettier in order to attract mates, or to look better than, you know, their competitors. Ah, pup dozers. Now, I could do the same thing I did for top men, but they don't remotely resemble bugs. Granted, neither did top men, but they don't resemble any animal, so who cares? But they clearly resemble a reptile of some sort, so it's probably just that the female grows bigger. Because, well, you know, Glamdozer, the queen, it's probably just that the female is just the alpha of the group, and the males are just, you know, they're to service the queen, and she's just there for breeding purposes. Yeah, this one's kind of boring. I didn't really have anything much to say for pup dozers, so I kind of just added it in there. But now there are other species in Mario, but I can't really begin to guess, so I'll leave it at that. Alright, but seeing how I ran out of waste of bullshit, I'm gonna call it here, and I'm gonna also stop clapping. And if you have any other theories, or if I was wrong on something, then, well, obviously also say that. But that's the end of this video. If you like what you saw, like and subscribe, and if not, tell me why in the comments, and I'll see you all later.